So how do you?
I just copy and paste it into a document as I go.
Because I tried copying and pasting also, even just email addresses, and it wouldn't let me copy and paste. I don't know if it's on my end or if it's a
upgraded Zoom.
I'm sorry?
Do you have the upgraded Zoom?
I didn't know there was an upgraded.
Do you pay for Zoom or do you use the free Zoom?
I'm on the DOE Zoom.
Oh, that's why you can't. Because they blocked that feature on your guys' Zoom. But I have a regular commercial license with Zoom.
Okay.
I'm able to do it. And actually, Michael, I'm thinking of it. Can you copy and paste the attendance into it for me?
Yes.
Like just occasionally copy and paste the chat into a Word document. And
Yeah,
then
sure. That is
Well,
no
that's kind of
problem.
silly that they do that. I don't know why they would block that feature.
They're probably trying to limit liability for the district and be able to.
We are at 7:01.
Oh yeah, let's let everybody in, shall we?
Yes. Okay, I'm gonna hit admit all now. Do you want me to unmute them?
Yeah, you can unmute them in the beginning, and
Okay.
then when Stephanie's ready to give the intro, we'll.
And real quick before I do that, did you stop screen sharing? I'm not seeing your iPad anymore. Okay.
I did, and I'll start when we get to
Okay,
drawing.
I am hitting admit all now.
Okay. Hello, lovely art teachers. Welcome.
Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Should I spotlight myself or?
Mm-hmm. Oh, actually, Mike might have to do that.
Yeah, you have to do that for me.
So can you spotlight Stephanie?
There we go. So
Look like you got some sun.
I did. I sat by the pool with a friend yesterday and it was beautiful.
Well, good for you.
Thank you. I feel healthy when I have a tan. All right. Let's see. We have about 15 people. I don't know if we should wait another 5 minutes. What do you think, Mandy? Wait 5 minutes?
Yeah, let's give them a few more minutes to put it in. Yeah. It's good to see all these lovely faces.
Put it on grid view. There's everybody.
Hi.
Hi, everybody.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Mom. I got you.
Good.
For those who don't know, Roberta is my mother. She's a retired art teacher who loves the art community, so it's us every week. Yeah.
Keeps me young.
Hi, Stephanie's mom.
Hi.
Okay, we're up to 19. Cool.
Oh, that's a good showing.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we average about 20,
Mm-hmm.
20, 25 every week, so this is good.
I hope I don't get blown away.
I think you'll be fine.
Well, on Alexa's screen, it says tornado watch for Millville.
Oh.
Oh. That should be fun.
Did you tie yourself down?
No. If something happens, I'll run into the bathroom.
Okay.
Where is Millville? It's the middle of Long Island. Well, further west than the middle. So just, how can I explain? Where are you from?
Overland Park, Kansas. So
Hey.
Oh, all right. Then I'll just say it's on Long Island.
Long Island is part of New York. It's like the southeastern tip of New York.
wow.
And
So are you expecting bad weather tonight?
Yeah, I think we're getting hit with pieces of Laura, the winds and all of that.
Yeah, that's right.
No, that's in Arkansas.
Oh, well.
It hasn't gotten up there yet.
I think that at all of these crazy storms we're having, they put down tendrils and, you know, in all different places at the same time across the country. So nobody's safe.
Well, it's bad in Louisiana. Louisiana and Texas is the worst.
Wow.
They just said that in Louisiana, on the coast there, it's the worst hurricane in over 100 years. It's historic, and if you're near the coast, it's not survivable. And they told everybody to get out earlier. So it's bad.
I guess we'll see tomorrow in the news
Yep.
what happens. All right, I guess we're gonna start. You guys, a lot of you look familiar. And for those of you who are not, welcome to our weekly Thursday night Art Teachers Art Club. This is our very special happy place every week where we come and we make stuff and just commiserate on everything that's happening in the land of art education. This week we have our special guest, Mandy Theis or Theis.
You did it right. It's
I did it right, Theis? Wow, cool.
It's right. I'm super impressed.
Excellent. She's from the School of Atelier Arts and will be running the lesson. And I'm going to, after I hit the record button, I'll say a couple more things and then hand it over to Mandy. So as always, if you want to be invisible, now is the time, and I'm going to hit the record button. So here we go. I think, yes. Okay. Welcome again, and I'm going to beg everybody, if you know someone who would like to run a session, we have nothing going on. Well, we may have something going on next week, but nothing definitive yet. So we have a lesson for the 10th, and if you want to book later with me, that would be great. I think that's it. You guys, most of you know my email. If not, it's in the flyer. You can send me a request to be added to the mailing list, and I'll give you to Mandy to tell you how the pacing is going to go tonight. It's going to be a little different, and she has somebody helping her record this as well for her record. So without further ado, you can unspotlight me and take it over.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us.
So it is such a joy to be with art teachers, as it always is. Some of you may know me, some of you I might be a new face. My name is Mandy Theis, as she correctly pronounced. Thank you, Stephanie. And, and I am an art teacher. I teach high school at Barringer High School, and I also am an Atelier trained artist, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. The School of Atelier Arts is an organization that I run, and we just got approved by the state of New York to offer CTLE credits. Woo!
Yay.
So if anybody would like free CTLE credits for tonight's workshop, you need to follow 3 steps, and I'm going to walk you through those now, and I will remind you what the 3 steps are again later in the presentation. So the first thing I need you to do, if you would like free CTLE credits or even just a certificate, because I'll send a certificate that many states accept. So even if you're not in the state of New York, if your state accepts certificates that are not by state vetted vendors, then you might also want to do this. So you need to type your first and last name into the chat. That's going to count as the attendance record for the classes. If you have not done so already, I've typed in a link to my website where I need you to fill out that form. That's my official record that you have are registering over the credit. So there's a link in the chat. So if you just click on that, it'll just ask you to put this free thing in a cart, and it'll ask you the information I need in order to issue you a certificate. And then the last thing I need you to do is at the end of class, I will send out a survey, and the survey has to be complete. So in order to give you an official New York State CTLE credit, I need to type your name in the attendance. I need you to fill out the registration, the official registration for this class, which the link is in the chat box. And then at the end of class today, I will send a link for a survey. and you have to fill out the survey. So if you write me asking 2 days from now, hey, I didn't get my certificate yet, it's probably because you missed one of those 3 steps. So please, if you need the credit, do those 3 things.
Mention also they have to stay till 8:30.
Right, you have to stay till at least 8:30. I'm going to be issuing 2 certificates, and you can fill out your survey form for some of that time between 8:30 and 9 to get the 2 hours worth of credits in the discussion. But I won't be putting that link to the survey until 8:30, so that ensures that that's why I need your name in the chat, the survey, and then I will be able to email you the certificate once the survey is complete. Okay, so that's really exciting because New York makes it very, very difficult to provide professional development for our teachers. So I'm happy that we're able to provide that service. A little bit about me in the School of Atelier Arts. I am a classically trained artist. I am known as an Atelier trained artist. The Atelier movement is something that is known for teaching realistic drawing and painting skills. These paintings behind me are some of my works. These paintings, it's not like a magical thing to be able to draw and paint realistically. It's going to a specialized school, calling an atelier, that will teach you these skills. So anybody that goes to an atelier can draw and paint very technically well, very realistically. So what I'm doing today in my presentation is I'm going to be teaching one of the methods that we use in the atelier to do kind of like a fun, short drawing that will turn into kind of a pattern making situation a la William Morris, who was an Atelier trained artist and hung out with Atelier trained artists. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to type them in the chat. I do have my colleague Mike that I would like to introduce. He is helping me produce this video so that we can make a nice, highly polished video for all of you to use in the future. And so because we're doing it that way, the way we're going to work the workshop today is I'm going to give a little bit of a presentation, and then we'll have some time to talk amongst ourselves, and then I'll give a little bit more of the presentation, and then we'll have some time to talk amongst ourselves. But in order to get the clearest video quality so that other teachers can use this resource, we will ask that everybody mutes during the presentation time. So that's kind of how we're going to arrange things. Before we totally get into it, does anybody have any questions they'd like to ask via video or in the chat? And also be aware that this is recorded. Okay, I don't see any hands raised. Okay, so I want to get right into it because there's so many fun things that we can learn from the Atelier movement, from William Morris, from the arts and crafts movement. And I know that I've had a long week prepping and getting ready for all my classes to start, and I've been looking forward to just drawing with some chill art teachers. So I'm really excited to jump into it.
Real quick,
So,
Mandy, sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
Just remind everyone that if they have a question that they would like to ask while you're presenting, they can just drop it in the chat, and I'll send it over to you. And also, did you start your GoPro?
Oh, yeah. Thank you. So I'm going to start recordings for this as well. So good call.
And hello, everybody.
Hello. What's a GoPro?
So GoPro is a little video system that I have. It's like a tiny little camera. I can show it to you once we are through here. And it's really nice because it's tiny and small for recording, which is very helpful. All right, so, okay, we're good. So actually, I'll talk a little bit about my setup with you all too. So I have my laptop open. I'm going to be screencasting to my iPad here, which is going to be looking at my drawing there. And then I also have my GoPro here. This is the GoPro. So the advantage of this is that for my students, they see what you guys are seeing. They're seeing the computer angle, and then also I'll be casting using technique of casting so that you'll be able to see my iPad screen and me at the same time. But then I also have this third camera here just to get a high quality video for production value because on my YouTube channel, School of Atelier Arts, we're trying to produce resources that our teachers all over the country can use. So we're trying to make sure that We provide as much knowledge to as much people as we possibly can at all times and create good content for art teachers. Okay, so without further ado, I'm actually going to share my screen to my PowerPoint and we'll get started. And then after that, we'll have some time to talk. And then I will start casting to the iPad and we'll get into the drawing project. Okay. If you don't need any CTLE, I see a question coming up, you don't need to put your name in, it's fine. If you want a certificate just to show your principal what an awesome art teacher you are, sign up and you'll get the certificate, and if you don't need it, you don't need it, that's fine. Okay, so arts and crafts, pattern and design. The arts and crafts movement is one of my absolute favorite movements because it really combines skilled artwork like realistic drawing and painting with purpose, with application, and in a way that brings beauty into a lot of homes, not just one painting on one wall, but creating wallpaper, creating fabrics, you know, that many people can enjoy and can be produced at a level that really brings beauty into people's lives. So you're gonna hear the word beauty a lot, both because beauty is an Atelier concept that is very important, and also because it's an arts and crafts concept that is exceptionally important. So the arts and crafts movement really values beauty in functional objects, inspired by nature, and you know, the arts and crafts movement really believed that designers should also be the makers. So it wasn't just that they were creating these designs, they were going to print with them. They would make their own inks, and then they would, you know, print each block, each color block on these wallpapers. So it was really about being part of the whole process. William Morris really felt that it was horrible that all this production factory work, you know, starting of the industrial age and the turn of the 20th century, late 1800s, early 1900s, that, you know, factory workers say are putting one tire on a car, one tire on a car. He felt like that sucked the soul out of people. That was just a terrible thing, that you were creating, you're extracting any creative process from the maker in the production of items. So in a lot of ways, the arts and crafts movement was a rejection of the machine age. And it was definitely intended to bring beauty to the masses. Now, even though it was intended to bring beauty in the masses, he also believed that the maker should be involved from start to finish. Well, throughout his life, he had this soul-wrenching conflict between those two things, because on one hand, if you make everything from scratch, then it's more expensive, right? But on the other hand, if you're trying to bring beauty to the masses, you need some machine age reproduction methods. So he was constantly going back and forth between these two ideas and was never truly satisfied. It was one of the great torments of his, you know, philosophical life. So this jar here is done by the Saturday Evening Girls. So there were basically two arts and crafts movements. There was more than that, but there's two major players. The British with William Morris, and then also the Americans took up arts and crafts with gusto. And, you know, in Boston in particular, where this pottery was founded, there was a huge Irish immigration population. And at that moment in history, there was a very active nonprofit community that was trying to help immigrants absorb into mainstream American culture. And so they came up with these potteries and other ways of creating arts and crafts objects as a way to help practice English, as a way to help provide income source and things like that. So the Saturday Evening Girls, we get together on Saturday evening and create these amazing, beautiful arts and crafts works. You can see that the elements of nature are really important in the arts and crafts movement, and you know, observation from nature, but also beauty. This is an example of a California arts and crafts home. And so the arts and crafts movement kind of manifested itself in all these little pockets, and it kind of just oozed out over the world as different regions were kind of experiencing this, you know, rejection or pushback against the industrial age. So in California, you get a lot of flowier lines. But if you look at this room, it's not just the glass was designed or the fireplace designed or the rug was designed. Everything was designed together. Everything in this room was intended to be beautiful and go together. So we talked about William Morris. He's a key leader in the arts and crafts movement. He believed that form follows function, which later got bastardized by the Bauhaus, and then later the Bauhaus followers to like this really extreme end that I don't think William Morris would have agreed with. But You know, the idea of don't just put a decoration on something to put decoration on something. What is its purpose? Decoration should have purpose. And this is a great quote from him. Have nothing in your house that you do not know to be useful or believe to be beautiful. And, you know, I was reading Marie Kondo's book. Marie Kondo is well known as like a tidying up guru and personality and helps people clean their homes. And, you know, she believes that every object in your home should spark joy. It's not that different of a concept. I think it's interesting that William Morris was rejecting the industrial age. And in a lot of ways, Marie Kondo is trying to take us out of this digital mindset or this consumer mindset and be like, what brings you joy? What are the things that you hold and bring you joy? So I think it's interesting that we've kind of come full circle. And I think that we're really primed in 2020 with everybody at home to start the next arts and crafts movement of being makers. So at least that's my new incentive lately is let's make everybody be makers again. Okay, so just a few patterns. This is Willow. It's by Morris and Company. A lot of people mistakenly believe that William Morris designed all these patterns. Many of the most famous patterns were not designed by him. They were designed by his niece or other workers within the factory or the company, but they were all very well trained. They were careful observers of nature. This was a May Morris design here. And, you know, it's about that balance between careful observation of nature to get the truth of your subject out of it with a pleasing design. So they would do tons and tons of drawings of, you know, realistic objects and plants, especially that they found throughout, you know, their everyday life, and then organize them in a way that was pattern based. So the importance of pattern, obviously we talked about like wallpapers, fabrics, tiles, you know, all these things are in the home. Why shouldn't they be beautiful? Why not bring art into every aspect of our lives? And it really became the focus of the movement overall. And again, remember, William Morris was motivated to bring beauty to the masses and took that goal very seriously. Okay, and he tried to make it as accessible as possible to everybody. He believed that everybody deserved beauty. I was watching a video by Ron Finley, who's this activist. He's a gardener in Los Angeles, and you know he's an activist for growing your own food and creating beautiful spaces. And one thing that he said that really stuck with me is that if you grow up around ugly, you're going to think that the world is ugly and it's an ugly place. But if you grow up around beauty, then beauty becomes a part of your DNA too. And I think that's so impactful that, you know, a lot of us are working with students that maybe have difficult challenges at home, and what can we do to help them? Well, maybe beauty is one way to help students that have a lot of ugliness in their life. Okay, so we're gonna make some arts and crafts pattern. Go ahead and take a minute to gather what you need. So we'll need a pencil, white paper, eraser, tracing paper. If you don't have tracing paper, don't panic, a window will do, tape, and scissors. So I'm gonna escape out of my PowerPoint here. And now would be a good time to spend a few minutes kind of chatting while we get set up. And then what I'll do is I'll cast to my iPad, which will give you a good view of the drawing. Oh, you also need an object to draw. So a few leaves, something natural is best. If you don't have anything natural, just a small, simple object will do. But I'm going to teach you a linear drawing method today that we learned in the Atelier. So go ahead and take a few minutes. Feel free to chat with your friends, and we will get going in a couple minutes here once everybody has their resources.
Hi, Mandy. Hi, Stephanie. Hi, everybody.
Hey, Mario, how are you?
Great, great. This looks so fantastic.
So happy.
Well prepared as always, Mandy.
Thank you, my friend.
And I want to thank Stephanie and everybody who's joining us. If you don't know, I'm the president and chair of the NYCATA UFT, New York City Art Teachers Association. And I've watched your videos, but I think this is the first time I'm here live.
Hey.
And I'm looking forward to eating dinner and drawing my plant. I'm gonna go get my plant now.
Yeah.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you.
Bless you. Bless
Bless
you.
you.
Oh, thank you. Wow, forgot the mute was unmuted. I was unmuted. That's funny. Forgot just change it.
Yeah, sorry, I unmuted everybody.
That's okay.
Just in case you feel like chatting for a little while. Hey, Mandy.
Hey.
Laura would like you to show your setup again at some point. It can be at the end, but I think it's
let's
a
do
really
it,
useful
real quick
setup.
now. Yeah, so, you know, especially with Atelier training, you know, it's really important that we can both see what the students are doing and that the students get a very good shot of what you're doing on your page. So I'll just kind of walk through the setup one more time. So I am signed into my laptop, and that's what I'm facing right now to face all of you. I also have my iPad that I will show you is set up here over my drawing. And what you can do is in Zoom, you can use a feature called screen mirroring, which will allow you to cast to a different technological device. So right now I am casting to my iPod so that you get a good view of my drawing here. I also have a camera set up. You don't need to do this for your own teaching if you don't intend to create videos, but because you know, Mike is here helping me produce a video that can hopefully be used by other teachers throughout the country. I have another camera. This is a GoPro. It's just a tiny little camera, which is very convenient because I live in a very, very small place. So the smaller the things that I have to have around, the better. And it's a handy little, very simple to use camera that can also connect to my iPad as well. So that's kind of my setup. I am adding an element that I don't have quite mastered yet today that I've just learned about this week, where Google Translate, you can open a Google Translate window and send a link to your students, and no matter what language that they're speaking, Google Translate will take your English, presuming you're speaking English, and they can set it to translate to any language that they want on their end. So I'm working on integrating that into future presentations, but I'm still trying to figure it out. I just learned about that. But that will be part of my regular school setup.
I think Laura has a question. Laura, are you muted? Can't hear you. Still can't hear you, Laura.
Mike, can you unmute everybody for a moment?
I did. Everybody is allowed to unmute themselves at least,
Right.
but
Okay.
if they've got
So
mute, they can override.
If you unmute Laura.
There you go.
Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yes. Hi.
Sorry, it was unmuted. It didn't have the X, or it didn't have the red slash, but it maybe wasn't working. My question is, your iPad, it's mounted on an arm or a tripod of some kind?
Oh, yeah. So this tripod, this is just like the Amazon Basics tripod here. And then this is actually a mount. Sorry, I'm trying to show it. So this is the back side. This is a mount. I think I caught it for like $12 off of Amazon, and they make them for both iPhones and, here, I'll show you my iPhone. Not where I thought it was. But
That's okay.
you know, it basically will grab your iPad.
Right. I have one for my phone,
Yeah.
but the software you're talking about is something
Okay.
in Zoom?
Okay, so in Zoom itself, there is an option to share your screen, and
Yes.
you can share your screen to your iPad. But in order for it to show up on your iPad, you have to allow screen mirroring on your iPad or on your iPhone. So if you swipe from the upper right corner of your iPad, there'll be an option there that says screen mirroring. You click that,
Okay.
you click the name of your computer, and it will cast It's called casting, where it'll cast to your iPad from your computer.
Mandy, if we've got some time at the end, we can go through some of the technical details of how to get some
Sure.
of this stuff
That's fine.
working.
Thank you. I just, I don't have I have an iPad, but I'm not using it. I don't have an iPhone. Most art teachers seem to have an iPhone, but I haven't.
Yeah. Well, you can do it. You can use it both ways. But like, I know all of us, you know, we got thrown into this long distance thing. You know, I'm a classically trained artist. I mix dirt with oil and smear it on canvas for a living. Like, it was a huge learning curve to,
Yes.
you know, get into the long distance learning situation. But, you know, as we figured out, I try to do my best to make sure that we're sharing with each other. How are you doing it? How is it working for your students? You know, so I appreciate the questions.
Thank you.
Mike, I think Mario cannot unmute himself.
I see. I'm going to unmute him.
Okay.
Free at last.
Yeah.
I should say that the reason we're being really controlling with the voice situation is because we are trying to make a recording. Like, I've had a request from the Wisconsin Art Education Association, the Washington Art Education Association. What I'm trying to do is create one video that I can send to these other organizations. So thank you for bearing with me while we work on our video situation here. Sorry, Mario. What's up?
No, I'm fine. I'll just mute myself, and that way
No, I want to hear what you had to say. I was just apologizing for making it difficult to unmute. I lost him. Okay, well, let me know in the chat if you want to contribute. Sorry. All right. Well, we're trying to figure it out. You know, trying to make everything work with get the most resources to the most people here. Okay, so we're actually going to get into the drawing part now. So if you have your object, you know, your natural object. Now, I pulled this stuff out of the woods the other day when I was walking. So right now I kind of have this big branch of a subject, but I want to start with the first time I do this drawing technique, which is something really simple. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take one of the leaves off of my plant, and I'll show you the technique with just like a small piece, like maybe one leaf. And then we'll also go through the technique when we have a grouping, so multiple leaves, or in my case, I have some berries on my plant. But I want to go through the technique because there's specific vocabulary we use in the atelier, and it's the same vocabulary whether I'm doing a life-size multi-figure painting or if I'm doing a single leaf. So I wanted to introduce that vocabulary and those techniques. All right, so what we're gonna do is I'm going to put it down on my page, and I'm just gonna kind of tape it down in place so it doesn't move. It can be very frustrating to do this if your subject is moving, and with my students, I have them tape it down just as like a fail-safe. So go ahead and tape your object slightly to the left because we're gonna draw on the right if you're right-handed, or slightly to the right if you're left-handed. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I'm actually going to draw a box around my subject. And I want this box to exactly touch all sides of my leaf. So for example, when I draw this box, I'm just going to draw right over my tape here. I want to draw it so that from my point of view, it's exactly touching the leaf. Now, this leaf is curving up towards me. So if I want to make this line actually touch, it's actually shorter than you think it is. Because do you see how in the video I want to make that line touch? If I was pretending the leaf is flat, do you see how it goes beyond that line? So this leaf is curved up, and that means that that box is going to be shorter. I'm also going to finish my box out on the left-hand side. Now, it's really great to do this actually around your leaf, because when we draw from observation, it's the same technique, whether, again, if you're doing something really small or really large. So once you have—
Hey, Mandy, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Mhm.
On the iPad, you've got it focused over there on the leaves on the right. Can you just tap real quick on the leaf that's on your paper so it refocuses?
Did that work?
It sure did. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. So we have this box around our leaf. Now, what we want to do, first of all, is we need to understand what this box represents, because these 4 lines are actually the most important 4 lines that you will make in any drawing that you do, because what they represent is actually the height versus the width of our final drawing. If your box in the beginning is too fat, your final drawing is going to be too fat. If your box is too skinny, your final drawing is going to be too skinny. So it's essential to make sure that you are careful with these boxes. Now this box has a special name, and I'll type it in the chat. It's called a notional space box. Notional space box. Now that's just a fancy word for what's the proportion of our subject. So controlling proportion is actually what many people struggle with the most. Even people with like years and years of drawing experience, like many of our teachers, you know, lovely art teachers are, they often aren't able to control the proportion. And the reason is because most people learn how to draw by like, okay, I'm gonna draw an eye, and then I'm gonna draw a nose, and then I'm gonna draw a mouth, and then by the time they get to the feet, the head is a completely different proportion than the feet are. So if you want to control proportions, the only way to do that is to conceive of the whole before you put any details in. In Atelier training, we always work from the biggest ideas to the smallest ideas. Okay, sorry. I just need to put this in real quick. All right, so make sure that you put your box down on your drawing paper. When I'm working with my students, they're like, yeah, Mandy, we get it. We have a box already, right? But the reason I like harp on this is because I would say 90% of the drawing errors for my students come from messing up this step. So it's very important to take it seriously. All right, so what we're gonna do now is we're actually going to extend our top and bottom lines to the right. So if I take this line and just extend it to the right, and the top box and extend it to the right, it's translating my height over to my drawing area. And then what I can do is just start by putting a vertical line where you want the left edge of your box to be. I'm gonna put it here. I could have put it here. There's no right or wrong answer. But once we put that first line down, what we can do is we can use our pencil as a measuring tool to discover the width of that box, and then translate that width from our leaf to our drawing box that we're gonna make. So like with anything, measure twice, draw once. So I'm gonna double check my width, translate it over here, and once I feel confident, I'm gonna go ahead and extend that line up to my top. Now, you will discover as we go through the Atelier drawing method that we are going to draw a lot of lines that we don't actually end up keeping in the end. The reason for that, these are called construction lines, and they are intended to help us organize very complex visual information into smaller pieces so that we can think about one thing at a time. Right now, by making this box, I don't have to worry about how many veins are in the middle of my leaf. That's not the point right now. All I'm worried about and all I'm focusing on is controlling, the height versus the width of my box. So I can go ahead and erase back the parts of my box that I no longer need. So these construction lines I no longer need. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to create what's called an envelope. So I will type this into the chat too. So an envelope just envelops the biggest shape. So we started with the biggest proportion by using our box. We now know where the top of our leaf is going to be, the bottom of our leaf is going to be, and the two sides. But now we're going to think about the biggest shape. But in order to think about big shapes, there's things that we do want to think about and things that we don't want to think about. What we do want to think about is using a small number of straight lines to describe the biggest shape. What we don't want to worry about are all these other little details. So for example, I can use a straight line, 1, 2, oops, I tapped my leaf, 3, 4. That last one was too vertical, it's more angled. 4 to describe this leaf. And the advantage of this is that if you tell someone draw this leaf, most often they're going to draw something like this, right? But this is not an observation of this leaf. This is a symbol of a leaf that we learned to draw in like kindergarten, right? Like this is a leaf shape, add a stem. So when we are observing nature, we're observing the specificity of nature. And by using an envelope, it helps us find what is the unique shape of this particular object in front of us. So once I do this, I can translate these lines over here. Now, if I were to pull up my leaf a little bit, you can see that, oh, it's 4 lines. But again, nature is sneaky. It's not a symmetrical object. You can see that this left edge is a very different line length and angle than this edge. So when you're translating these, you know, look at this triangle shape that it's making with the corner and see if you can translate those shapes over to your box. And pay attention to which ones are taller, which ones are skinnier. That one was too fat. All right, so this is going to help us get the shape of this leaf. Okay, so once we have this concept down, now is a good time to refine our contour. Now we have these guidelines that will help us create a more refined contour of our subject. So I'm just gonna do what we call is a pass in Atelier training, where I work around the contour of my leaf and try to observe carefully. Now, what this means is that if you see, I see 1, 2, 3, 4 bumps on the left edge of my leaf. That means that I want to have 4 bumps on the left of this leaf. Sometimes drawing realistically and really well is all about counting. So I'm assuming, being the wonderful art teachers that you are, that you know how to count. So show me that you can apply that skill to your drawing. So I'm going to work my way around this, just refining. So I'm getting a bump here, 2, 3, 4, and then it kind of does a swoopy into this corner. The other thing to pay attention to is in what ways are your subjects asymmetrical? Like in my case, the left edge of my leaf is fatter than the right half of my leaf. My leaf is not perfectly symmetrical. Now I'm going to refine this right edge. So I'm seeing it goes in and out here and kind of makes a point. And then it really kind of dives in like this. And this starts turning in a little sooner. And there's 2 bumps on the bottom part of my leaf. 1, 2. So it's really the specificity that separates the arts and crafts movement from a lot of contemporary patterns, which are very symbolic based. There are a lot of contemporary patterns that you see today are very symbol based, as opposed to observation based. Okay, so we just spent a fair amount of time kind of getting our outline in. The rest of the drawing, we can add some details, but the key with adding the details and making your leaf look believable or your object look believable is to only actually draw what you see. And what I mean by that is if you look at my leaf, I can see the center vein or the center seam until here. Then I don't see it anymore. So I'm not going to draw it like this. That's a symbol of a vein. An observed vein is only drawing what you actually see. And also paying very careful attention. Remember that this half of my leaf, the left side, is fatter than my right side. I can't just split this up the middle. I have to be observant about where that vein is. I might have exaggerated a little bit. And then in my case, at least with this lighting, I really only see 1, 2 veins. I see just a tiny bit of one that dissolves here, and I see one up here. And again, the veins themselves are not all the same angle. The symbol way of doing it is left, right, right? They're all the same angle. But I promise you that if you look carefully at your leaf, that each one of these has its own angle. And if you observe them carefully, you can see that this is a much steeper angle than this is. So be good, careful observers. And then I'm just going to kind of add my stem down here for effect. And again, your stem is not equal. This is a symbol of a stem. A real stem has thickness and it changes thickness. It almost always gets a little fatter towards where it would connect with the branch. Okay, so just a reminder that if you are just joining us and you would like to have CTLE credits, please type your name in the chat. That's going to be a record of attendance. There's also a link in the chat box where you can register for the free CTLE credits on the School of Atelier Arts website. And then I will match your attendance with your registration and issue you, you will be sent a survey at the end of the class, and those 3 things will be matched together to issue the CTLE credits. Okay. So it's perfectly okay if you're still working. I just want to show you a few drawings that I've done using this exact same method. What we're going to do also is we need like 3 or 4 of these drawings. So, excuse me, now that you know the method, try drawing 2 or 3 more leaves or small objects. Like I have some berries here. Maybe I'll do like a grouping of berries. And what we're going to do is that these are going to be the elements that we combine together into our repeating pattern. So you need like 3 or 4 of these observed drawings in your sketchbook in order to do the repeated drawing. I want to show you this drawing really quick. So I did this in my garden earlier where it's a pumpkin plant, but you can see that each one of these leaves were originally conceived of as big shapes. You see these big shapes? So the way that we get careful observation is being methodical about how we approach drawings, have a system in place for organizing visual information. Atelier training, drawing realistically, is about being able to organize very complex visual information in ways that make sense to you, that you can break down and approach in a methodical way. And what we're going to do is we are going to be creating a pattern. So here's a pattern that I did as an example where we combine different elements from the drawing, and I will show you how we go from this, which is a drawing of a few leaves that you guys are working on now, to this, which is a what's called a seamless repeating pattern. So go ahead and take the next 10 minutes and work on getting a few more observed drawings into your sketchbook. I will do the same. And then we'll talk about pattern making. So I just kind of clip this one off. I'm going to tape it down. And I'm just going to go through the same process. Now, this time I have more objects, but it's the same idea. I want to create a box that goes, I guess technically the tape's interrupting the form there, so I'll do it there.
Hey, Mandy.
Yeah.
Can you, on the iPad, again, the focus keeps bouncing around when you move your hand. It goes back and forth between your paper and your hand. Can you tap on the paper and then hold it for 2 or 3 seconds so it locks the focus in? Do you know what I mean?
You mean on here?
Yeah. On the iPad, just tap on one of the leaf drawings and then hold it there and it'll lock it in. Yes, see, that's what we want. AEAF lock. Thank you.
So I'm just doing this box. I guess there's this little thing sticking out over here too. So I'm doing the box and I'm just following the same process. I'm copying the box over here. I'm picking where my left edge is going to go, and then I'm measuring the width of this box. Now, the advantage of measuring is that you'll often find that what you think it is different than what it actually is if you bother to measure it. There's all sorts of good discoveries to be made using measuring as a tool. Okay, so I'm gonna work on the biggest shape. So I'm getting a few questions in here. So why not using a ruler? So the reason I'm not using a ruler is that learning to draw a straight line and find parallel lines are really essential skills for being able to draw and paint realistically. Now there's two methods of thought on this. One is that it's already really challenging to learn how to draw and paint at a high skill level. So why not use any material that'll help you? And the other philosophy is that it's so important to be able to draw a straight line that if you don't practice it, you won't learn it. What I do in my classroom is that I let students use a ruler and then they eventually find it too cumbersome and they let go of it. But if I try to fight them on it in the beginning, they like are all about their ruler. But once they get used to the process, it's kind of like training wheels for a lot of my students. You know, they give up the ruler eventually. And then I'm seeing a few other questions. So you can use the same leaf. You can draw it multiple times. So just get a different angle of it, like flip it over or rotate it. If you just have one leaf, that's totally fine. Wow, there's like a big storm that just started where I'm living. Like I see lightning everywhere right now. Okay, so one thing I want you to pay attention to this drawing is that if we are at the spot where we're making an envelope, do you see how I can actually connect various parts, this part over here to this part over here? This is super important. A lot of people don't see these connections when they first start trying to draw using this method, but it's essential because remember that controlling proportion is the most challenging aspect of drawing realistically. And when you relate something that's way over here to something that's way over here, it helps you control the proportion. Excuse me. So, for example, before I started Atelier training, the way I would probably have drawn this would be like, okay, I see a berry, I see a berry, I see a berry. Oh, there's a leaf over here, right? But you know, you want to be able to carefully observe what this overall shape is, because you can see that I made my berries too big in proportion to my leaf here. Whereas if I had been careful about finding my envelope shape, it helps me control my proportion. It helps make sure that I keep the berries at the same proportion that the leaves are. You know, and you can even do envelopes within envelopes. So if you're looking at my berries here, like you could do a sub envelope, like a little triangle around the berries within your envelope. That's perfectly valid. You know, and the more complex your object is, the more time it'll take to observe carefully. When you're drawing twigs or anything like that, the thing that makes a twig look the most twiggy is observing where it's fat and where it's thin, because it's never perfectly even all the way across. There's always fatter bits and skinnier bits.
Hey, Mandy, when we're translating the envelope shape from the object to the drawing, do you have a recommendation on how to get those proportions correct other than just eyeballing it?
So there's a few different methods. Like you can always measure. So for example, if I'm looking at this angle here between my leaf and my berries, I could actually use this as a measuring point where that line is hitting both sides. It's hitting my box. And as soon as a line hits your box, you can literally translate this measurement, take a measurement with your pencil where the top of your pencil is at that point and your finger, and you can translate that. So you don't even have to eyeball it. Some kids, in my experience, if you're teaching this method in your classroom, some kids are going to want to be very, very precise, and they will love measuring everything. Others are going to be reluctant to measure anything. So I try to teach both ways where, okay, what is this triangle? What does that triangle look like? And also, okay, how do you measure it? And again, you can see that I'm finding shapes within shapes in this particular branch. And you, like, a lot of people don't realize, like, no matter what it is that you're drawing, it has a gesture. It's not just people that have gestures. This leaf has a gesture. The stick has a gesture. Everything has a gesture. All right, so I'm just gonna try to refine this quickly here, and then we'll go on to our next stage. Just try to have a few drawings to pick from because it makes the pattern design way more fun that way.
When do you start erasing those construction lines?
So once you have your big shapes in, so for example, I have a leaf shape in here. So once you have the biggest shape in using straight lines, then you can kind of start refining it. And as you refine it, you can erase the construction lines as you go. Some people like to draw the refining lines first and then erase the construction lines, but it's also okay to erase the construction lines first because you'll always be able to see them. Like even if I erase them, like I know where they go. I still see traces of them. And again, just make sure you're counting and being careful. And only draw things that you actually see. In this case, the vein, I see it on the tip, it disappears, and then it kind of cocoons back in here. And I didn't make this quite loopy enough. It goes 1, 2, and connects. Okay. Okay, so I want to get to like the fun pattern making part. Like I love drawing and I could draw all day, all the time, but I feel like you guys have had an opportunity to practice the concepts. So I definitely want to make sure we get time to really flesh out some amazing patterns as part of our workshop today. So what I'm going to have you all do is you are going to need 4 squares. If you have tracing paper, that's good. If you don't have tracing paper, you can either use really thin white paper and draw darkly so that you can see through it, or hold it up to a window. Although I'm realizing now that it's maybe dark out where you are, depending on which state you happen to be in. So 4 squares. Now I made mine 4 inches, but it doesn't matter what the size of your square is as long as they're all the same. I found that 4 inches when I'm working with these objects gives me space to put a few different things in each of the squares. But depending on whether you drew really big or really small, you just want a square that'll fit at least a couple of your drawings within 1 square. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have Mike unmute everybody, and we can kind of chill and talk and ask questions while we prep our squares, and then we'll kind of get into the pattern making part.
Everybody should be allowed to unmute themselves or already unmuted.
I don't know if you guys are experiencing this, but there's this crazy storm happening here right now. There's like lightning everywhere. I feel like I'm in a horror movie.
Where are you geographically?
So I'm in Jersey City, just outside of New York City, in the state of New York.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe it's coming up towards Long Island then.
Oh, yeah, I think you'll be getting it. But I live in a really tiny place. It's like in the attic of an old house. And I have a skylight and I have a window in front and a window in back. So I'm seeing lightning above me and on both sides of me right now.
Oh, boy.
But I love good storms. I think they're like so, I don't know. I love the feel of being in a good thunderstorm.
They're very exciting unless they come too close.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, it looks like it's storming south of Pittsburgh too. Oh, yeah, it got really dark really fast here. And Queens. Is it storming in Kansas? Did we have somebody representing Kansas?
I still see blue sky outside.
Not to brag, but it's beautiful where you are.
I'm sure it will come this way. Up from Arkansas, the hurricane has, kind of gone from hurricane force down to a tropical force. So it usually comes up from the coast or the Gulf to us.
Well, it
Takes
looks
a
like
couple of days.
it looks like California is nice too, at least at the moment. So. Do you hear that?
Yes.
Yeah.
I feel like I should have drawn lightning for my pattern.
Mandy, where did you go to school?
Oh, so I got my teaching license in Montana, and that's where I taught my first few years in very rural Montana. And then I discovered Atelier training, and I moved to Seattle. Actually, I'll type this in the chat. Juliet Aristides, she has these beautiful books. You can get them on Amazon. They get 5 stars on Amazon. Like classic literature does not get 5 stars on Amazon. They're some of the most beautiful books. But I always warn people, be very careful, because I read this book and then I left the teaching profession and went to go study with her for 4 years. Like I moved to Seattle to go study with her. So they're very dangerous books, but they are wonderful, wonderful to see. And
What was her name again?
I typed it in the chat. Her name is Juliet Aristides. And if you type that in, then we have other Jersey City people representing. If you type that into the Google search or whatever, you'll see her books come up. They are just beautiful. If you're interested in learning more about Atelier training, I cannot recommend them enough. I actually worked with her on one of her most recent books, which is a sketchbook that you can actually sketch along in, and we designed it so that it could be used in the classroom as curricula. So I encourage you to check it out. I did have a grant to give them away free for our teachers, and then the publisher got bought out and stopped giving me the free books. So I wish I could give you free books, but they did a switcheroo on me, and I don't have access to them anymore.
Are you familiar with Todd Burrows in Michigan?
I'm not, although, is he running a school there in Michigan?
He is, yeah, he is.
You know what the name of his school is?
It has Atelier in it. If you just Google him, you'll see the name. But
Can you type the name in the chat for me?
yes, yeah, I took a class from him. He's fantastic. He teaches Atelier style painting and caustic.
Oh, awesome.
But he was teaching at a local art center. Now he has his own school.
Good for him. Yeah, you know what's really interesting about the Atelier movement is that in many ways it's become the countercultural movement in art. Like it used to be, realism was very vilified, but now this knowledge is kind of experiencing a renaissance. It's becoming more accessible. Oh my gosh. Sorry, my like door is like maybe not staying on.
Oh, no.
I guess we'll find out. What are you gonna do? Sorry, I did not mean to be so overwhelmed by this. It's overwhelming. It's like crazy.
Mandy, do you need to get into your bathtub?
Right? Okay, I think it's better now. I don't, whatever. Sorry, Atelier training. Atelier training is really great. And, you know, it used to be actually in the 1980s that only a few people in the world had this information, because what happened at the turn of the last century is that as this, you know, idea of modernism really took root, one of the key components of it was that training would ruin your creativity. So even artists that had atelier training purposely did not teach the next generation of artists. So you have people like Mondrian, for example, who are classically trained, that they took their art in a different direction, but chose not to train the next generation of students because they feared it would ruin their creativity. You know, I don't think anybody argues that Mondrian didn't create interesting things, but that was kind of the mentality. And between that and World War I, actually, World War I destroyed the ateliers. And I also want to point out that really there's scientific discoveries in art, just like there are in every other subject. So what the ateliers really were a collection point of knowledge about technical drawing and painting and sculpting. And they would share hundreds of years of inherited artistic information from one generation to the next. For hundreds and hundreds of years, this is what happened. And then within one generation, they almost entirely disappeared, so that the access to that knowledge was very limited, and that the people that did have access to it suddenly seemed like geniuses to us. Think Andrew Wyeth. You know, every museum in the world will tell you he was self-taught. That's a complete lie. Both his father and his grandfather were very good classically trained artists that had access to some of the best education of their times in their day. Norman Rockwell, classically trained. So this idea that art is something you have or you don't, and if you've ever wanted to, you know, paint like Andrew Wyeth, that you can't if you don't already know how to, is ridiculous. And I think it's very harmful to tell people that. Like, anybody can learn to draw and paint at a very high level that has access to the knowledge. It's just that the knowledge has been so restricted for the last 100 years that it's difficult to find. But now the ateliers, the internet really changed things. It's easier for people to find, and they're popping up all over the place. Like, I didn't know about the one in Michigan, but almost every day I learn about a new atelier, because you know, they're training, and then all those students, like myself included, I trained with Juliet. Now I run my own atelier, the School of Atelier Arts. So it is ever expanding, you know, which is really cool to see, because, you know, we are working in an age where we have entire conversations in emojis, right? Never has there been a more important time to understand in a nuanced and studied way exactly what it is that we're seeing. So just to address some of the notes here, is it very expensive? That depends. It's much cheaper than college. They're mostly privately owned. You can get full-time atelier training anywhere from $5,000 to $20,000 a year. That includes all your models and a full-time instructor assisting you. I am actually very excited to announce that the School of Atelier Arts, I'm not allowed to announce this officially quite yet, but we are in the process of creating a Masters of Art program that will be accredited for teachers specifically. So for the last few years, we've brought art teachers from all over the country in the summers when they have time to dedicate to training. And because of the growth and success of that program, we are in review to by an accrediting agency to be able to issue master's degrees starting next summer. And our price point is about $7,000 a summer, and that's 3 summers for a master's degree. So,
But that's not an announcement.
That's not an announcement. No. But it's in the works. Wink. You'll have to cut that part out of the video. You know, a lot of the school districts, because it will be an accredited program, will, you know, for districts that offer tuition assistance or whatever, it will qualify for most tuition assistance programs because it will be an actual certified program by an accrediting agency. And, oh, I see someone studied with Harold Stevenson. That's very cool. Very cool. And yeah, so it's really interesting to see how these methods have kind of come full circle. You know, like fashions and art are always in and out. It used to be that the pre-Raphaelites were trash and now everybody loves them, right? Like in the 70s, you could buy a pre-Raphaelite painting for $1,000. Like Flaming June, that really famous painting of the woman wearing that orange dress in kind of circular composition by Lord Leighton. Andrew Lloyd Webber is so upset because he had an opportunity to buy it for £50 when he was a kid and his grandmother would not lend him the money. So, you know, things come in and out of fashion, but the cool thing is that anybody who wants to learn these skills can. So, and there's so many great resources online for you. There's a lot of ateliers because of COVID that have gone online. So you all have the most access you've ever been able to have to this training if you want it.
It's good to tell kids that too, because oftentimes kids will walk into my classroom and into the beginning classes and they'll feel like you either have the art gift or you don't, and I'm never going to have it, so why should I try?
Can you imagine your math teacher being like, oh, you can't do calculus already? I'm not going to teach you how to add.
Right.
It's such a prevalent notion in society. And like, even when I have been in classrooms, like with an elementary student for a week or something, I'll get notes back from parents being like, I didn't know little Johnny was an artist. I'm like, stop poisoning your children's minds into thinking.
Right.
But so I actually just took a full-time position this year, which is new for me. I've been, you know, running nonprofit and also the School of Atelier Arts for quite some time. And now that we're transitioning to be a summer program to focus on the master's degree, I decided to go back into teaching high school. So I'm excited. I'm kind of like a first-year teacher all over again in a way. So I did teach for many years in Montana, but teaching in a rural school district is a little different than teaching in Newark School District.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I've been jabbering and we don't have much time, so let's get, does everybody have their squares?
Yep.
Squares? So here's the cool thing about pattern making is that it's actually not as complex as it seems like it would. We're mostly going to be doing a lot of copying, and here's how it's going to work. You're going to take your one square and you're going to put a couple elements. So for example, and you know, like maybe I'll put this element on this part of my square and trace it and then add this leaf over here or something like that. So trace one or two of your elements on one of your squares. That's your first step. And also, I do have a PowerPoint going through all these steps that I will email you. But in order for me to have your email address, I need you to fill out that link. It just asks you to add this class, and that's how I can give you your certificate too. But that's how I can email you the PowerPoint, because it's a large file. I have to give you Google access. And you want to be as precise as you can, especially as we get into the process. But there will be an opportunity to clean it up too. Okay, so I have one of my elements copied. I'm going to add this other element. It's kind of, see, I told you guys to make 3 or 4 just in case, and then I didn't make 3 or 4. So I guess I'll add this guy. He's a little long, but that's okay. I'm going to connect this leaf to the stem of my other drawing just because I can. This is the part where you get to manipulate nature to meet your design desires. Okay, so this is what my first square looks like. So go ahead and put 2 or 3 of your elements together on a square. And then what we're going to do is we need to trace this onto all 4 of our other squares. So once you have a couple elements on one square, We're going to very carefully line them up. I hope you did a good job cutting your squares. Nice square. The squarest squares there ever were. And we're going to trace them. And again, the more precise you can do your tracing, the more heartache you'll save yourself later. So I now have 2 of my 4 squares. And I talked too long, so I'm gonna have to like really rush this along here. My apologies. I got distracted by that storm. Crazy storm. And we will have an opportunity at the end of class today to just kind of have everybody chatting and catching up. 3 or 4. So it's totally okay if you're still working, but I'm gonna go on just so I can make sure to get through the whole process with you all. I'm just gonna open my sketchbook to a clean page so that you can see well. So once you have all 4 done, you wanna tape them together, make sure that they're all facing the same way, because it should be a repeating pattern, of course. And you wanna tape them as carefully and neatly as possible together to each other.
Hey, Mandy, we've got a question about overlapping them if there's not enough room.
Are you talking about overlapping the drawings or overlapping the squares?
I'm not sure. It's a question from Leslie.
My leaves are really big, overlapping the leaves in the 4-inch square or the square that
Yeah, you can layer them on top of each other. That's fine.
Okay, I did.
Yeah. What you don't want though is when you're doing this step here, taping them together, they cannot overlap. So they have to be edge to edge.
Thank you.
So when you're taping them together, please be as careful as you can because it will make a difference in the end. Okay. So I'll give people like another minute to kind of get their 4 objects. And when you tape them all together, again, you want to be very certain to make sure that they all line up together this way. Make sure they're all facing the same way. That's super important. Okay, so once we have them taped together, oh, it looks like quite a few people are still working. I'll give you 1 more minute. All right, so our next step is actually surprisingly easy, but interesting at the same time. So once we have these here, what we're gonna do is figure out how we wanna connect our elements or if we wanna add more elements. So right now I kind of have, for example, this big empty space in the middle. Maybe if I did another drawing, I wanna put, you know, something like that in this space. Or like some of the arts and crafts patterns that we saw in the beginning of my presentation, maybe we want to kind of connect them with a vine shape. That's very arts and crafts, is to kind of connect these natural elements with a vine. Because my design has a super diagonal feel, I'm feeling like, why don't I kind of connect mine with a vine that kind of sweeps down and connects down here. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the other side of that vine in. And so you can put a vine if you want. You can put another element, some more leaves, whatever you want to put. Just put it in whatever place you want it to be to make your final design be what you want it to be. So I've connected my vine. Now here's how it works. You'll notice now that all 4 of these are different from each other because this spot here has something in the lower right. None of these others do. This spot has something in the upper right. None of these others do. This one now has something in the upper left. None of these others do. So what you do is once you're satisfied with your pattern, what you're going to do is you're going to take them apart and you're going to trace all of those 3 elements on all of your pages. So for example, we said that this one has the top part. None of the others have that top part yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trace that top part onto all 4 of my other squares. So I'm just rotating it around to my other 4 squares. And I'm going to do this for all the pieces because all the squares have to be the same. So whatever you added to one square, you now have to add to all the other squares. All right, so I finished copying that part, so I'm going to put the tape back, and then I'm going to pull my next square away. And this square has the little corner element to it up here. So now I'm going to make sure that all 4 of my squares have the corner element. And again, the more careful you are, the better your end result will be. Making sure everything lines up well. And as you're doing this too, it's just really important that you don't accidentally flip one of your squares. You want to make sure that they all stay face up all the time. If you're doing this with students, sometimes it's helpful to have them write their name on it, and that way they know whether it's front side up or back side up. All right, so now I'm going to do this last square. And get this bottom element. Okay. And if you did a good job of being extra careful, what you should have is a design that mostly fits together. Like this. And of course, you can make these as complex or as simple as you want. I'll show you that example I did earlier. You know, this was some pea pods that I was studying in my garden that got quite complex. And then, you know, this is a simpler pattern, but I could add to it as much as I want. You just follow the same process. Now, the cool thing about this process is that if you want to do this with your students, you can have them fill a whole page if you want. This is a project that they can do at home. Obviously, we're using mostly pencil and paper. It's a pretty simple project. But also, if you want to make some money, and who doesn't want to make money, there's a website called Spoonflower where you can upload your patterns and anybody can print your patterns on their fabric or things like that, and then you get paid a percentage of every sale. So if you wanted to upload a pattern to, say, Spoonflower, what you need is just this one square, because this square has all the elements that if it were repeated over and over again, they all connect together. So the reason we did it on 4 squares is so that we could see and make good artistic design choices with the repetition happening. But this is the same square over and over. All we have to upload to a design pattern website would be this one square.
What is the name of that website?
I'll type it in the chat. It's called Spoonflower, but Spoonflower is just one of many. But there are
Students?
spoon, like soup spoon,
Oh,
and then
flower.
flower as in pretty flower.
Got it.
But you can upload, like, you can get almost anything you want printed on there. And it looks like some people are familiar with it. But what's really cool is that they have like a challenge every week. So, you know, if you have a student that like really loves pattern making, that could be a great assignment for them. Like, okay, upload a design of Spoonflower every week. And then there's like that extra motivation for them that they can make money from their work.
It's very interesting.
I really like teaching with patterns because in my experience, students get a kick out of making patterns. Like, it feels magical, but I'm really just teaching drawing skills, right? Like, but it's more interesting than saying, hey, just draw this leaf. If there's a, you know, an element of play to it. Okay, so as you're still working, I'm going to put a link to a survey in the chat. So if you need CTLE credits, I have to have this survey. Like, it's non-negotiable. The state is very strict about this. Here is the survey if you want these free credits. Yay. And then also, if you want the PowerPoint, but you haven't officially registered for free through my website for this workshop, if you just, I'll put this in here too. If you want the PowerPoint for free, PowerPoint, fill this out. This just connects you. It's in my store for free, but what it does is it'll put you in my system so that it'll automatically issue you the materials that you need. Oh, someone's saying it won't let you fill out the survey. Do I have it locked? So I should say, hey, you guys get free CTLE credits. Here's the catch. This is my first time ever issuing CTLE credits. So let me, what does the error message say? Does it say?
There's
I don't
no
have it open.
permission. It's view only.
You need permission. You need permission. That's what it says.
Restrict to users. All right, unrestricted. All right, save. Now try it. It should, I think I fixed it. Are people able to access it now?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you have to fill out, like, it says 0 payment, but do you have to fill out like all the other
No,
information?
you can just, I think all it needs is your email address is the only thing it needs, and then submit. Like, you don't have to put your phone number in or anything.
Okay. So next, oh, and now it's saying the fields are required.
Maybe it's the phone number that won't, like, so I have this problem with the store because I need a record of people registering for the class to issue credits. So I have, like, the store's the way to create that record, but the store won't let me eliminate some of the fields. But I know that you don't have to put your phone number in, but you may have to put a mailing address in. The good news is, though, if you feel comfortable putting your mailing address in, if I ever get another grant for those books, then you get one mailed to you.
Mandy, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
First of all, I wanted to thank you again, and I just want to remind everybody that you could always see these workshops at our website, which is simply NYCATA, NYCATA, New York City Art Teachers Association, nycata.com. And we are going to have, if you're a New York City teacher, an interesting back to school virtual town hall with Karen Rosner, who is the head of art for the New York City DOE, on October 1st. We are preparing some questions. We had done a survey of teacher issues that I don't know if any of you filled out. We had 260 art teachers respond about what it was like to teach under the COVID in March and what people were worried about returning for. And so if we went over that with Karen, and we developed a series of questions to give her at that October 1st meeting, and also just to hear from teachers what it's like this first month. We don't even know by October 1st if we'll still be in the schools or if the schools will have closed down again, but that's why we waited a little extra. So all the information is there, all student exhibits, artist teacher exhibits, everything is there. You don't have to be a New York City art teacher to go and access it and even to participate, but it is NYCATA. I'm sure Stephanie has been sharing that as well. And yeah, we'd love to see you there. And remember, October 1st will be our first time we're going to do this Zoom meeting with, hopefully we'll get it right like you're doing here. We're going to have we intend to have at least 100, if not more, spots open at this meeting with Karen Rosner, and it'll be a virtual state of art education meeting 2020. So I'd like to thank everybody. I'm going to sign off because my wife just came home with a bunch of kids who are soaking wet, and say thanks again. I always love your workshops, Mandy and Maddie. And as soon as you get settled and we want to do anything else with us, or we can do it live and in person and come back to the Salman Gundi Club, you let us know. And if you need any,
me because I actually had 5 workshops lined up to do for you guys at places all over the city. I was like pulling all my contacts, and like Karen and I were working on it. Karen Rosner and I were working on it, and then COVID hit. So
I know.
Yeah.
But I'm sure we'll get back to better than normal one day. And always, if you need any help from us or any references or anything like that, just feel free to contact us. And Stephanie, thanks again. Did you get a volunteer for next week, Stephanie? Well, you hear that, ladies and gentlemen? We need somebody to step up and shine. I see a hand is raised. Is that your hand, Megan? Are you raising your hand to volunteer? All right. Well, like I said, it goes as long as it goes. And if people, you just, the motto for NYCATA is we do our best. We're all volunteers. And I have to tip my hat to Stephanie. She came up with this art club idea, and it's a great success. So
woo!
thank you.
Yes, Stephanie!
Okay. Good night, everybody.
Right.
Right.
God bless.
Right.
Awesome. Yes, I definitely want to make sure that we give Stephanie an extra, you're awesome, because not only is she dealing with all the other stuff that our teachers are working with, but she's organizing this for our benefit on top of everything. And it is a lot of work to organize and put all this together. We had a lot of messages back and forth, and she does this every week. So thank you, Stephanie.
Yeah, thank you, Stephanie.
Yeah. I think it's really, really awesome in that we can, continue to grow this group and Stephanie's awesome. So keeping awesome, Stephanie.
Hey, Mandy, one quick question.
Sure. Sorry.
I kind of got behind on your creating your one tile. What was?
Okay, so what we did is we had just the leaves copied on 4 tiles. Then what I added was this bit here. So do you see how it went through this tile, and that tile? So it kind of went through all 3.
We don't see your art right now. We only see you.
The survey. My bad. Let me. I have to recast. I'm sorry. Thank you. Screen mirroring.
Okay, we have thunder on Long Island.
Okay, it got to you. It was an intense storm. Like, buckle your seatbelt, lady.
Yep.
So your connecting vines had to cross 3 tiles?
Yeah, so what I started with was just the leaves,
Right.
and I copied those to all 4 squares. Then you can connect these any way you want to. I decided to connect mine on a diagonal. And when I did that, I happened to fill in some space on this square, fill in some space on this square, and then also fill in some space on this square. So once I did that, I have to, like, this upper right-hand corner now has to be copied to all of the squares.
But what if you only cross 2? Like mine is more vertical.
Yeah, then you only have to copy the 2 across.
Okay.
Mandy, on your form, the area where you have us putting in our email addresses, because you wrote email address, the form automatically collects only numbers unless you change it.
Oh my goodness. Thank you for helping
Forms,
me.
yeah, Forms is really smart that way. If you ask a certain type of question, it automatically assumes that's what your answer is supposed to be. So you always have to double check. I got stuck doing that with kids. They're trying to put in.
What should I make it say instead? Email?
Well, you can have email address, but when you go to where the portion is, where the answers are, take out the, you can eliminate.
Oh, I see.
Area. Yeah. Where,
Okay.
And just put short answer.
Okay. Yeah, I gotcha. Thank you.
Of course.
Can you tell that, like, this is my first CTLE credit? All right. Okay, I think it's fixed now.
Okay, I'll see. for you. Refresh it real quick. I'll check it real quick for you. Let's see. Yes, it's working.
Yay, thank you. Okay. Oh, we're all trying to figure out this crazy one. Do you like New York State was very frustrating to get. Like it was an enormous application. Like it took me days just to write it. It ended up being like a 20-page application, like just to be able to issue the CTLE credits. And then they charge you so much money to even apply. And then like you get issued, like it took months for them to like issue a response to it. I was like, it was a process. So. Finally there, we're finally able to issue credits.
If we don't need credits, we don't have to fill this out? We don't.
If you don't need credits, you don't need to fill out the survey, but if you could, make sure that you're officially registered on the website, because the file I need to send you is large, and that's the best way I figured out how to do it. Oh, I'm so sorry, Stephanie. So it's saying that you're the host. Mike had to leave and he made you host. No? Okay. So because you're host, I can't control any of the settings, Stephanie. Okay. I see the message. So you are because he made you host, you're the, can you make me host and then maybe I can unmute you? Oh, and Stephanie says that to please let everyone know while we're figuring out how to let her talk, that that this will be posted on the NYCATA UFT YouTube channel, so you'll have access to it there for repeating. And then, okay, so on my screen, Stephanie, it says that you're unmuted. So I don't know what the issue is. I'm sorry. Anyways, we're good. Okay, so for these last few minutes, I just want to make sure to thank you. I can, if you want, I can show you the rest of the PowerPoint so you know what you'll be getting in the, you guys can see this PowerPoint, right?
We're seeing your screen.
We just see your drawing.
Your drawing.
I have to stop share and reshare. Okay. See, I lost Mike. He has a newborn baby, so he had to go. But screen share, so now I have to do all the tech stuff on my own, which is fine.
You're doing okay.
It's just, you know, like the more devices you're juggling, like the more. All right, so if I play this. Yeah, but actually, if you look at these again, now that we've gone through the process, you kind of see how they were constructed.
Yeah.
With their connection point and how the repeat actually works. So even though we did squares, you can use this with a rectangle of any size. So you can have like a long, skinny rectangle or a fat, you know, rectangle, and it'll work the same way. Okay, so this is the PowerPoint that I have for the process, the drawing process. So find some nature. This was the sweet pea one I did. Single leaf, finding the notional space, finding the biggest shape, refining. So drawing in PowerPoint isn't quite as precise as I would hope it would be, but you get the idea. And then you erase your construction lines. And then all of the repeating directions are on here as well. So So these were what I started with, you know, these little elements. Cut your squares. Trace them. The whole process, the 4, adding elements, adding a stem, and kind of figuring out how you want them to go together. So in this case, I had them kind of connect through. And then you can trace your final, and you get a final design. Woohoo! And there's also a rubric in here for your students if you like using rubrics, or I don't know if, I know it's always changing, but if people are still insisting on growth initiatives, right?
Yes.
Numerical growth. This is a great way to do it, is using this little rubric, and you could have your students, like you could just sit down and tell your students to make a pattern, grade them on this rubric, and then teach in the lesson, give them the rubric again. They'll give you good results. You will do what the administrators love, which is show numerical growth, and you can get back to teaching your art. Okay, so that's everything I have for you guys. Thank you so much for being an amazing group. It was wonderful getting to hang out with our teachers. And
Thank you.
Thank you, Mandy.
Yeah.
Mandy, when I went to your link, it asked me if I would sign up for the newsletter. So I just gave my name and email.
Yeah.
Is that how I'll receive your PowerPoint?
So I think that just popped up. Like if you X out of that link, it should have the, like, it'll be like Nycota credits on it.
Yeah.
So if you just add that to your cart, it just, that way I have everybody's email address in one place that I can send the big file to.
Oh, so I want to add it to the cart, did you say?
Yeah. So if you just add it to the cart and check out, that allows me to deliver big files to you through my store.
Oh, okay.
How to send big files.
Okay. Gotcha.
Seeing the PowerPoint was really helpful, Mandy. Thank you so much.
Sure. Yeah, I'm always torn between like doing it by hand and then like the PowerPoint, because like I like to feel like people are drawing along, you know, with me, but sometimes it's just clearer in the PowerPoint.
Thanks. I'm going to have to leave, but have a good evening. Everybody stay safe.
Thank you. Enjoy your Kansas weather.
Thank you. It's hot here.
Yeah.
All right. Good night.
Good night. Okay. I don't know if anybody else has anything to say, or if I should close up the meeting here.
I'm just filling out your form here.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'll stick around, and whenever you guys, I just want to make sure it gets through, because obviously, like I said, this is my first time going through the whole process.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and leave as well. Thanks, Stephanie.
Did you want us to put any note to seller?
You don't have to, because
okay,
everybody that orders this item will get sent the thing. And Stephanie's also letting me know that she'll put the PowerPoint in her Google Drive.
Okay.
So I think it's
So
Google Drive that can have it as well.
All right. Okay. I think that's all set. So thank you, Mandy.
Thank you so much. It was so wonderful to hang out with our teachers. I love it.
Yes.
Best of luck to everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, actually, I can't end the meeting. Only Stephanie can end the meeting, but I'm going to leave now. So thank you. Mwah.
Okay. Bye-bye. Thank you, Stephanie.